Yes, people, what's going on? Welcome back to Football Therapy with me, your host, Jan. I hope you're doing well, mate. I really do hope that. Welcome back to Chelsea News. Again, of course, at the moment, the twice daily series here on the channel where I consolidate, aggregate Chelsea news, headlines, what's being said, and present it to you. I give you my opinion on it, I ask for yours down in the comments section, and I read it with a great deal of interest. Today, we are discussing two things. Chelsea have bought a presumably majority sharehold in the Ligue 1 side Strasbourg. The MultiClub Model has begun, and Gary Neville screaming into a pillow somewhere because an exclusive on the Telegraph that Chelsea, from Tom Morg, that Chelsea have satisfied the Premier League, that we are not owned by Saudi Arabia. Gary Neville, who of course in his social media was like, halt all sales to Saudi Arabia until we find out, the intricacies of the ownership. We're not just, yeah. Lots to get into today. Of course, multiple pieces of content every day. So I thank you for your continued support. You're welcome to subscribe. Should you choose to do so, hit the sweet bell, and thank you for liking the video. Let's get into it quickly. Right then, so Chelsea have bought a stake of Strasbourg, the Ligue 1 side football team. Now, it's a 40% stake. One would assume, and I can't confirm this because I don't know at time of recording, that perhaps this is a majority sharehold. Now, if that was the case, Strasbourg's ownership shares would have to be quite fragmented, and 40% would probably represent, by far the biggest chunk. I don't know. Again, I'm speculating here, but I'll speculate and guess that this gives Chelsea ownership or decisions of the Ligue 1, the French football side, Strasbourg. Of course, ever since the new ownership model in Clear Lake Capital and Todd Bowley came into Chelsea, their intentions was always thus to create a multi-club model with Chelsea as the HQ. And there'll be satellite clubs around Chelsea. They've always wanted to buy a club in Ligue 1, France, and they've achieved that seemingly with this majority stake, if that is to be the case, with Strasbourg. So they wanted the Ligue 1 club. They've got that. They wanted the Liga NOS, which is of course a Portuguese club, and look at the high amount of talent coming out of the Portuguese league, and how much people pay for like your Ruben Dias, your Bruno Fernandes, your Joao Felixes, your Enzo Fernandezes, your Manuel Ugarte's. The list goes on. So they want a club in Liga NOS in Portugal as well. And there's two other leagues. I know it was Brazil. He even tried to buy the club Santos, which is of course an iconic Brazilian club that Neymar came from, and loads of other superstars. Yeah, and of course our very own Andre Santos. Did he get? No, he came from. No, he didn't come from Santos. Sorry, but anyway, lots of big players did. I digress. There is a fourth league which evades me that they want to. Is it the Dutch league? I can't remember. Anyway, they can tick one off the list with Strasbourg, and that's a good start. It's a sort of mainstay in the league French top flight. And what this means, basically, I won't bore you with it for ages, but it strengthens, Man City have done it for a long time. The RB clubs do it, with New York City. My brain is failing me. RB Leipzig and RB Salzburg, of course, the club that Erling Haaland came from. So we want to do it because it means you don't have to necessarily find clubs that want to loan your players that don't have the interest in developing them. You know that the club you're loaning it to, it's your club, it's going to develop them and be your interest. Also, financially, again, this is an assumption. I'm speculating. If one club's sort of wobbling in terms of financial fair play, you can maybe do a little deal with your other club for inflated, undervalued or overvalued sales or something. I don't know. That's, allegedly, speculatively, whatever. Anyway, there's a multitude of reasons why this multi-club model with a main club, Chelsea Football Club as HQ, and have satellite clubs around it, feeding into it the best talent. Ultimately, it will give it's just a good model for a multitude of reasons. Before they even got their legs under the table, they wanted to do this, Bowley and Iqbali, but they couldn't do it immediately because Chelsea turned out was a big absolute crap show. And there was lots of stuff to sort out, and loads of managers to hire and sack, and staff and recruitment and football directors, and it was heavy. Let me know what you think about that down below. Let's move on. So I joked about Gary Neville screaming into a pillow early doors because he was quoted talking about all sales being halted to Saudi Arabia, certainly Chelsea. until, the ownership model. My cat. The ownership model is proven not to be owned by Saudi Arabia. And Tom Morgan of The Telegraph writes this exclusive. Premier League demanded extra assurances Chelsea are not owned by Saudi Arabia. Basically, we're the Premier League, and we've listened to Gary Neville. Look, man, I love Gary Neville. Excellent pundit at times, commentator. He likes a bit of banter, but he's a massive hypocrite penis as well. Sorry, that's not swearing, but you don't want to hear about that kind of anatomy probably in this video. He is. I love him. I don't want him to go anywhere. But when he did that panel show, he hosted Have I Got News For You before he went to Qatar and took all the money. He was rightly dissected. But no one's perfect. And so anyway, he's gone. He fluctuates, Gary Neville, from like praising Chelsea, but he just hates these owners. I think he's intimidated by them basically throwing their weight around, and he cozies up to like Qatar and stuff, so he can't slag them off, despite a lot of problematic stuff with the relations to that. There's no problematic stuff to just American people, but he's not going to get any money from them. So he's I think he feels threatened by them. The Premier League sought written assurances that Saudi Arabia's public investment fund, which of course is the PIF, was not part of the Todd Boehly and Clearlake Capital takeover of Chelsea. Wow, shock. Investigations into the kingdom's potential financial interest in the club, as in Saudi Arabian kingdom, while also owning Newcastle United. Yeah, they didn't even consider that conflict of interest, were explored during the owners and directors test when we sold in 2022. So yes, they do some things right in the owners and directors test. Of course, many people would proclaim that the Saudi Arabians should have never been able to buy Newcastle United in terms of the fit and proper owners and directors test. Apparently, the human rights issues and multitude of stuff in, the stuff with like what's it called, homophobia and the Premier League doing all these like LGBT campaigns. There's a multitude of reasons why perhaps these states shouldn't buy the Premier League clubs. But as much as the owners and directors test has been criticised on multiple occasions in the past, they managed to filter the fact that Chelsea aren't owned by Saudi Arabia when Todd Boehly and Clearlake bought Chelsea. However, despite rival clubs privately expressing concern over the Saudi Pro League's sudden interest in a host of Chelsea players, England's top tier is understood to be entirely satisfied there are no conflicts of interest. Mic drop, there you go. Gary, can we carry on with our business now, selling players? Oh, Chelsea are buying players. What are they doing? They're buying players. Okay, should we sell some? Oh, Chelsea are selling players. What do they think they're doing? Shut up, penis. Telegraph Sport has confirmed via multiple sources that the PIF had investment in Clearlake. What? All right, yeah, okay. And that was integrated extensively during new club ownership tests last year. Okay, so they've invested in Clearlake, but I can't forget the guy's name because he wrote a really good thread on Twitter explaining how there is links, there is financial investment and a relationship, but there is absolutely no ownership, and this is a completely normal thing in capital companies like Clearlake. Detailed information was provided to the Premier League as its request to fully evidence the club's proposed ownership structure, one insider said. Clearlake and Boehly then confirmed that the PIM formed no part of the ownership structure, and further reassurances were provided to the league that the PIF would not and could not be an investor in the future. There you go. Oh, here we... That is the mic drop moment. Gary Neville has been among the figures in the game to call for the Saudis' big spending this summer to face scrutiny, while one top club says teams are using the Saudi Pro League as a get-out-of-FFP jail-free card. Yes, and I love it. While the state embarks on its 500 million player spree, I read they're going to invest a much bigger amount than that. Authorities, however, are not alarmed by the league, which they've already signed Karim Benzema this summer, and the rest, and the ruddy rest, and Golo Kante, and respect Kante. It's thought Chelsea alone were presented with an option of 5 players amounting more than 100 million. Although one of them, Romelu Lukaku, has since rejected an offer. Negotiations are, I hope we do sell Lukaku to Saudi, because I'm just done with him. Negotiations are at various points, of course. Ziyech, Koulibaly, and Mendy are all done. Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, you can't really see him going anywhere else, can you? I don't think he'll go back to Barca. I just don't think they would. They've got Lewandowski's mid-30s. He'll get a massive wad of cash waved at him, Aubameyang. And I think he will go to the Saudi Pro League. The Premier League handbook already has a fair value assessment protocol that must be followed by clubs, and Chelsea sources claim interest in their players is purely transactional and down to the club's popularity in the Middle East. Yeah, which is actually believable. It's not out of nowhere this has happened. Todd Bowley went to talk to them. There was a big meeting. He says, look, we've got high-profile players. We've got 2 AFCON players, Koulibaly and Mendy. They're both considered like in their prime-ish, still really high-profile players, massive social media followings. We've got Hakim Ziyech, again, Muslim players, really interesting. God, I can say, not that we're negotiating a transfer for him, but these are all profiles of players that the Saudi Pro League would be very interested in. They know these players. The club also denies that the PIF has any existing financial interest in the club, despite Clear Lake, which owns about 60% of Chelsea, having prior minority investment from the PIF. Yeah, when you're a massive money-making machine like Clear Lake in America, odds are you've got some sort of state relationships from out east. It's just the way the world works. Todd Bowley and Jonathan Goldstein, the 2 leading figures in the club's ownership structure. What? Johnny Goldstein is the Tottenham fan who was brought in the board to help us develop the new Stamford Bridge. Maybe this is a typo and it's meant to say Badad Iqbali. But maybe they are the 2 leading figures in the ownership. No, they're not. It's meant to be Badad Iqbali. Surely that's an error. Have been linked with separate business ventures. I think it just disappeared for a second, with huge wealth fund as recently as last summer. Okay, interesting. So maybe that's the case. Real estate firm Kane International. There you go. So this is Goldstein. He's a CEO of. And yes, so they do basically loads of other business on the side. I get it. And that's why I'm more interested in them bringing in footballing directors to take care of the Chelsea business while they go and do their other hundreds of millions or billions of pounds business, which is fine. I endorse the multi-club model. I think it's a way of Chelsea becoming great again. It's not changing Chelsea in our own way. It's just a way of expanding marketing and developmental ways-wise. Of course, we used to send our players to Vitesse Arnhem every season. Turns out, years later, there's a story that broke maybe even a few months ago that I reacted to, that Roman was actually building or feeding them loads of money on the side. Dodgy, but does it shock you? No, so this is good. It's all above board. It's all kosher. The multi-club model, the ownership, Gary Neville, the ownership structure. It's legit and it's all sensible. This is kind of why, despite in the worst season for ages that I can remember on the pitch, I'm still remain positive about what Chelsea's intentions are with the multi-club model, with the right footballing infrastructure, with buying the young players, developing them. For me, I think it's positive intentions. If Bowley and Iqbali get out of the spotlight a little bit, the likes of Gary Neville will stop whinging, and we can just get on with development, playing football, and hopefully scoring goals and winning games, and bringing back fun and just being and togetherness and culture and family. #football. Well, let me know what you think. I'm very pleased to read these pieces of news. Of course, a little off what I'm usually talking about in terms of transfers and players and developments and contracts and stuff like that. So, yeah, give you a bit of everything. Let me know if you've enjoyed it. Please do show your appreciation via a little like. And you're welcome to subscribe as well if you want to. 2 videos a day. I don't want to miss you. Make sure you're here. Peace.